You know, you guys, out of all teams and the moves they made over the course of the 2022 NFL offseason, I personally don't think there's many teams that stick out more in terms of having clearly higher expectations than the Miami Dolphins. Because after some massive new acquisitions, as most people know, in Tyreek Hill, but some other major signings like Teron Armstead and Melvin Ingram, and along with this, you can't go without mentioning their complete revamp of the running back room, and on top of that, a clearly improved wide receiver core, it seems pretty safe to say that the expectations in Miami are higher than they've been in quite some time. And even with what seemed to be a very solid start to this year's campaign, most of the responses I've seen regarding the Dolphins have surprisingly been relatively negative. And yes, while I realize most of it is critiquing, and every team across the league is going to have stuff to improve on at the beginning of the season, there are definitely some things that we're seeing regarding this team that, one, are going to show to be extremely promising for the future of this franchise, and two, are some things that not many people seem to be talking about, so let's get into it. One sec though, guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to like the video if you do enjoy, subscribe, and turn on those notifications to never miss another NFL video. Love you guys. We're coming out with brand new NFL content every single week around here as the season goes on, so trust me, you do not want to miss out. But anyway, let's get back on topic with the Miami Dolphins, who I think it's safe to say if there's been one area of this team, quote unquote, stealing the show in terms of recognition over the last year or two, it would undoubtedly be their defense. Because with an absolutely loaded secondary in guys like Xavier Howard, Brandon Jones, breakout player Javon Holland, and even Nick Needham, the defense overall showed so much promise last year. And again, with adding a guy like Melvin Ingram to the front line, this side of the ball on paper was starting to look ridiculous. But of course, no matter how good it looks on paper, we still have to wait to see if the results on the field will live up to the expectations. And to say they did, well, that'd be an understatement. As in the season opener, we saw this defense force one interception in the end zone along with two fumble recoveries, one being returned for 6 by, of course, the newest addition in Melvin Ingram. And with everything else on top of this seen on this side of the ball, while the defense absolutely deserves their flowers with the massive impact they had on the final result of this game, many people have seemingly tried to take this massive positive regarding the Dolphins and try to flip it into a negative solely focused on their offense. Because I guess while the case could maybe be made that the offense wasn't as productive as they would have expected, more particularly speaking in the run game, the new look offense from almost every aspect you can consider looked incredible compared to what they've done in the past. And to start with the focus on the wide receivers, while it's obvious to almost anyone that watches football that Tyreek Hill is one of, if not the biggest game changers at this position in the entire league, people were still very hesitant in thinking how much of an impact he still would have with a quarterback like Tua Tagovailoa compared to a former MVP in Patrick Mahomes. And after seeing just one game of Tyreek Hill in this offense, I think it's already clear as day how much of a difference he is going to have on the entire offense's production. Because after finishing the game on 8 receptions for 94 yards, while it's funny that this could even be considered an off day for Tyreek Hill, his presence on that field definitely coincided with the improvement we saw from Tua Tagovailoa in this game that nobody is talking about, and in fact the majority of people are even bashing him. And yes, the game obviously wasn't perfect, the offense could have been more explosive, and he definitely still has some major improvement to do in his career. Against a very solid Patriots defense, he seemed to fit pretty well into the new playstyle right out of the gate, and on top of that, his accuracy was looking pretty good for the most part as well. I mean, personally, I never thought I'd see people this upset about Tua Tagovailoa going 23 for 33 on 270 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 104 passer rating. In fact, what was seen in this game should really only serve as a small glimpse to the potential that this offense could one day reach. And I say this in reference to what seems to be a new head coaching genius in Mike McDaniel. Because as we already have seen, he has somewhat transitioned the San Francisco style of offense he was familiar with over the last few years into what he's currently running with the Miami Dolphins, which in turn is going going to reap major benefits for everyone involved in this offense, including guys like Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and newest addition in the wide receiver room, Cedric Wilson. His high risk to high reward play style, along with being conservative when it's clearly needed, showed why he was able to take down one of the more prolific coaches the game's ever seen in his NFL debut. And I mean, yeah, while this style of coaching isn't necessarily always going to work, and Mike McDaniel made it very clear that the grass will not always be greener on the other side in situations like this, it's a style of coaching that hasn't really been seen yet with this young abundance of talent on the Miami Dolphins, and believe me, they're loving it just as much as the fans probably are. And then to touch base back on how this new style of coaching and offense is going to have a major impact on Tua going forward, while it might seem difficult to tell from just one game, Mike McDaniel is already playing perfectly into where Tua Tagovailoa does best, and that being able to consistently hit on these short to mid-range targets, both out of the run-pass option as well as the play action. And with Tyreek Hill now being in this offense and clearly being the star that shines brightest, it is taking so much attention off of guys like Jalen Waddle and Cedric Wilson, who are going to be able to consistently give Tua targeting options when Tyreek Hill isn't always necessarily working out the best that people are expecting. But then with Tyreek Hill, while the deep ball is always in the conversation when you're talking about this man, and the idea of the deep ball between these two was questioned throughout the entire offseason if it was going to be able to be utilized in this offense, it's not necessarily something that needs to be used to the same degree it has been with Tyreek Hill in the past. And I will even say, from some of the pass attempts that we saw from Tua, it does look like his arm strength has increased from last year, both in the sense of getting his ball to his receivers and even mid to deep range targets. But still, even though critics are always going to work to bash Tua for this particular part of his game, with all things considered, I think it's going to work out much better for Mike McDaniel to always have this possibility sitting in his back pocket, but not use it as consistently as probably the entire NFL is going to be expecting when you have a guy like Tyreek Hill. Who knows though, it's going to be very interesting to see the approach of Mike McDaniel on the offensive side with each specific matchup. But with Tua Tagovailoa, who is a guy that many people might not realize has continually improved with every season he's been in the NFL up until this point, it's pretty clear that this season is the definition of his make or break year. Because even though in my opinion he has been overly scrutinized for what he's done in his career thus far, it's also very clear that this is the best situation that he has been in since he's entered the league. And will we see the new and improved version of Tua that many people believe Mike McDaniel will be able to showcase? Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Again, there were a lot of positives, but also a couple negatives that you could take away from the Dolphins season opener. And of course, as I always say, I definitely want to hear what you guys have to think about this situation. So please let me know in the comments what impressed you the most from what you saw out of the new look Miami Dolphins offense, and also where do you think this team needs to improve the most going forward. But again, you guys, if you haven't yet, don't forget to go down below and leave a like on the video if you did enjoy, and of course, subscribe while you're down there. As mentioned, we're coming out with brand new NFL videos every single week as the season goes on, so trust me, you don't want to miss it. But also, I just wanted to say thank you so much to each and every one of you out there for watching. I appreciate you all more than anything, you all know this, and I will see you guys in the next video.